What is happening, everyone? My name is Dan and this is DTM Design. Welcome back to another build video. So today I am doing a Battletoad themed build. Now this is based off the NES game from 1991. If you don't know what that is, we'll get more into that later, but let's get into this build video and I hope you guys enjoy it.
The build starts off in the SLA printer as the Battletoads rise out of the bath of resin. Now my friend in Brazil put these together for me in Blender based off some concept art and some clips from the video game and some toys that are out there for the Battletoads. And he did a great job, so now we have these to be able to create the Turbo Tunnel level. Now Battletoads was created in 1991 by Rare Games for the Nintendo NES. It was definitely known as one of the hardest games on the NES compared to a few others. The second level being known as the most difficult, the Turbo Tunnel, which is the diorama we were building today. I have still not beat this to this day on my own. I've gotten pretty close, but it does take some practice. Now, another thing for this nostalgia-wise is that me and my friend kind of always played Super Mario 3, and that was it all the time on the NES, and it was my brother's old NES. And then one night we kind of just looked through the other stack of games, picked this game, and we started having a bunch of fun with it. One of the funny memories from playing the game with my friend is when we discovered that you could smack down the flying pig characters, get on them and ride them around and start shooting fire. We thought that was hilarious as kids and just a fun aspect to the game. Now, as I go along here, I am working on the base and just creating, the typical base for the diorama, the little jump launch that's in the game. And using my foam cutter and some other techniques, we're slowly creating this base out of this pink foam. For the diorama, I wanted to have some action to it, so I'm basing it off this concept art down in the bottom corner where he's flying out of control. I had my friend make both versions of the Toad, or the Battletoad, sitting and out of control flying. So I will be doing another build possibly in the future with the sitting Toad, but it may be a little different than a Turbo Tunnel, so keep an eye out for that. And now I'm just kind of cutting some wood so I can put some support on the bottom of the foam, so it's not this foam has some strength to it. Just using some wood glue to glue that down, and then some tape to eventually just kind of hold that so the wood doesn't warp or glue or have any gaps between the base and the foam. And this is the final outcome of that. With my Dremel and my respirator mask so I'm safe from this pink foam, I'm going to start carving and cutting into the foam based off our drawings that we did on the side of the organic kind of base, or like, I don't know really what you call that in the game, but it was very hard to pick out from the 8-bit, but a very webby, eroded, alien-like surface. So that's what I'm doing here, is just kind of cutting away, trying to make it look natural, trying to get some randomness to it, and slowly shaping it to as close as I can to what the game looks like. A little more cutting and some sanding to round over the edges. We have these results for the base. We're gonna have to go back and seal it to be able to paint all this. But I want to jump over to the turbo bike. Now, a little bit of it didn't print correctly, but I didn't want to go back and print it because it did take a long time to do the print. And I figured I'll use the flaws to just make it better and bring some more life to the build. A chunk of the back engine is missing from the printing, and I'm also here scoring all the panel lines to make them more pronounced. But I'm going to be using the flaw in the print to add a little bit of a smoke or a dust cloud kicking up from when the bike hits the ground. One, to cover up the damage of the engine, and then this will also bring some more life to the diorama and bring some more story to the overall build. So now, after sealing over the base with this Carbondo, I have to go ahead and smooth it out, especially the front that's supposed to be the ocean. As you can see, here's the rougher version of it right before I started sanding. And now we're smoothing it out. And if you look in the game, the liquid in between all the land masses are very bubbly. So I'm just trying to mimic that with some round foam balls that I found. And then using some coffee grounds here, I'm making a ground, like a dustier texture on the top, just to break up, the base and give it some more life and some more reality or realism to it. So after that dried, I primed the whole base with this gray primer, and then I'm going over with this light tan just to give an overall base to it. I'm doing a series of washes here to build up the color we want. Now it's very Mars-esque style base, and the takeoff of the jumps or the boulders in the middle in the game are more of like a pink hue. So we're gonna be leaving the takeoff a little more pink than the rest of the base. And then obviously the liquid in between the land masses is more orange and neon-y, so we're gonna be taking care of that as we go ahead. But using some like pink washes, some browns, and just playing with it, we kind of get this first little layer up of the colors. Now it takes a little bit of time to layer up all the paint and get the look you're wanting. Now here we have more of like an orangish wash going over it. As you can see, I'm avoiding going on the pink takeoff because it's supposed to be more pink. Now this is the overall layout with just the washes and paint. We're going to be going back over now with the pastels, and this is really going to bring it to life, mixing those up and just kind of getting the most natural looking ground we possibly can. The base mostly done, we're moving on to mounting the actual character himself. Now using some brass tubing, I angled my drill and kind of mount that in with some epoxy. And we set up where we want to mount him on the base right before the takeoff so we can get that dust scrape that we were talking about earlier with the engine. And then I moved on to making the handlebars, as that was another part that failed during the printing, being such a fine detail. Using 2 different brass pipe sizes, I was able to slide one into the other and then mounted those into the hands of the Battletoads so we could paint them all up and not have to put those in later and scrape up paint or anything like that. Now I started going ahead and painting the figures. A lot of the painting process is on my Instagram Reels, so if you want to see a more in-depth look on how I painted him, please go check that out. Now moving on to the next part of the build, we have to start making the liquid or the water for the base. Now using some acrylic sheets, we make a little cube, and using some clay and some hot glue, we seal up everything. The clay is for where I can't stick the hot glue because I don't want to damage what we painted. And using some paint, we mix this up to give a tint to the liquid epoxy, or the clear liquid epoxy that we're going to be pouring in, so it has that nice, alien water look and the hue that's closer to the video game, of course. Now when working with clear resin, make sure you mix it up real well and try to keep as little bubbles as you can. They will kind of come out if you use a little blowtorch, but this way it will cure and harden properly, and so you don't have some weird goop or mess when it comes to breaking off the parts. Now here we are finally at what we have. The resin is dried and we're moving on to making the wood frame so we can make the whole diorama a little fancier and a little more well finished than just the foam roughly sitting there. Using some super glue and some 45 cut pieces of wood that I did in a wood shop. Actually my girlfriend did it for me because I wasn't allowed to use it at the school, but she did it, so great job. Appreciate it. And now just putting it all together, I've sanded it all so it's all ready to go. Now all I do is kind of put these little edges in here so the diorama doesn't sit so deep within the wood. A little bit of super glue, we mount in those edges, and then we can move on to staining the frame before we mount the final diorama in it. And just using a little rag here, get it nice and wet, and just slowly coat this in some golden oak and wipe away any of the excess that we have over it. And now the wood is nice and sealed, it looks nice and fancy, and this whole diorama is going to really come together in the end here. Now with the wood stain dry, we test fit the base into it one last time before we go ahead and put down some hot glue and firmly press the base into the frame, and finally putting it into its final resting place. And then after that, we're going to be adding a nice little felt bottom to the underside of the build to give it a nice cleaner look than, that old dirty wood with glue stains and Sharpie marks and all that kind of stuff, and just a nice final finish for the overall build. So with the felt installed in the bottom, giving us a nice clean look underneath there, we move on to the last final detail, the little dust cloud, the main detail I've been talking about the most. I use some pastels, we tone it up to match the dirt that would be there, and I hope you guys enjoyed this build. This is the final step for me on this build process. Check out these detailed shots, and I'll see you in the next one.
Alright guys, thank you for making it to the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the build. Now when I reach 1,000 subscribers, I will be giving away one of these to one of the subscribers who is the lucky winner. I'm only about 40 away, so if you guys want, hit the subscribe button, and also if you want, you can check out my Instagram, DTM_design, for more build stuff and more frequent updates and just reels and little shorts like that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, that's perfect.